Hi, welcome to my May TBR video, and also this month I'm going to be doing the Mentalhealthathon reading challenge that's being hosted by Nicole over at A Beautiful Case of Books. I'll put the link down below. So I've got a TBR for that as well, and I'm really desperately hoping to try and fit in a good chunk of advanced copies this month so I can get on top of the reviews that I need to do. So, oh gosh. Frizzy McFriston. Jeez. Please ignore the bad hair. Right, so the first book for the Mentalhealthathon is to read the group book, and this year the group book is A Million Pieces, the Million Pieces of Nina Gill by Emma Smith Barton. This is about a young girl called Nina and about the various kind of life-changing events that seem to happen quite suddenly. Her brother disappears and nobody knows where he's gone, and then there's other things that happen that we don't know about yet, and it's kind of looking at how these things can have an effect on somebody's mental health and how they can, really be devastating for somebody's health. There's grief, loss, depression, anxiety, and possibly psychosis within this book that Nina has to kind of experience. And I've heard that there's also a very interesting kind of aspect in that Nina is a British Pakistani, and there's a lot of cultural aspects to how they view mental health and the treatment and the help that she can seek. And for the next prompt, we have to read a book about something mental health that we would like to learn more about. So I chose More Than It Hurts You by Darwin Strauss. Now, I have tried to read this book before and I got to about page 100 and something, and I just lost interest, to be honest. It is a chunky book, and I think it's going to be a very slow burn, kind of gradual build up type of book. It's basically this family that seem to have like this perfect happy little boy, good jobs, that kind of thing, and then the little boy starts coughing up blood and his heart stops, and it's all really sudden, and the doctors can't find anything at all that's wrong with this child other than this mother insisting that, something's wrong. And so we then kind of go down the route of suspecting the mother of inducing illness within her child. So it's kind of, it's about Munchausen's by proxy. I know it's got a different name now, but so it's about that, and it's about how fragile we are as a family and how things can very quickly go wrong. So I can't 100% say whether this is going to teach me anything new about that illness, because obviously I don't know how accurate the rep is, but I'm going to give that one a go. And then we have to read the oldest mental health rep book on our TBR. And for me, it is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. Now, I have read this previously and it was quite a while back. So even though I could vaguely tell you the brief outline of the story, I've completely forgotten all the kind of events that happen. So I'm not fussed about it being a reread. And basically, there's a young man in this who is on the autistic spectrum disorder, and he's got Asperger's. And one morning he finds his neighbour's dog dead in the front garden, and he then sets out on this kind of like quest to, discover what's happened to this dog. So it's a bit of it's like a bit of a twist on murder mystery type things, but it's about how he views things and how he's processing information and the kind of the experiences he has that we might, just take for granted. And the next prompt is self-care. Now for this we could do an act of self-care. We could, go and complete a jigsaw puzzle or have a long bubbly bath or, you know, anything like that. But for this, I actually chose to read a book that I've been dying to read for ages, that I specifically went online, ordered with the intention of reading it ASAP, and then a year later it's still sat on my shelf unread. So for me, self-care is going to be reading something that I've been really looking forward to reading, and that is The Last Illusion. I'm not going to try and pronounce the author's name at all, I'll ruin it. So basically, there's a young boy. He lives in Iran with his mother. His mother's got some mental health problems herself, and she, for some reason, treats this young boy, her son, as a kind of bird or an animal. He's kept locked in a bird cage with other birds, and he is fed bird seed and insects, and he kind of, you know, urinates and defecates in the corner of the cage like birds would do, or animals, and that's how he lives for, you know, I think it's over 10 years. And then one day he's discovered by a behavioural analyst who frees him and takes him to America. And then the story then follows this young man as he deals with all the trauma that he's been through and the kind of difficulties and emotions that brings up. So he does end up dealing with depression, anxiety, PTSD, things like that. So that's what I'm going to use for that prompt. And for the newest mental health book on my TBR, I'm going to go with a book that I've very recently received an advance copy of, and that's Insane: America's Criminal Treatment of Mental Illness by Alyssa Roth. This is an expose of the mental health crisis in the American justice system. She has written that between the jails in New York, Los Angeles and Chicago, just those states, there are more people with mental illness in those jails than in any hospital that specialises in mental health across the country. And that's just, it's unbelievable, to be honest. And that more than half of all people within the American prisons have mental illness, and 1 in 4 police shootings involve a person who's got some kind of mental health problem. So I think this is going to be a very hard-hitting, shocking, kind of emotional book. It's just hard to hear and read about when people are treated so badly, and the lack of services that are out there for people. So I'm going to try that one and see how I get on with it. And for the mental health non-fiction prompt, I am going to read Confessions of a Sociopath by M.E. Thomas. I literally got about 20 pages into this previously a few months back, and then for whatever reason kind of put it down and never picked it back up again. So I'm going to give it another go. And it's basically, it does what it says on the tin. It is the confessions and the experiences and stories of somebody who has been diagnosed a sociopath. And I recently read My Mother, the Psychopath, and that was very interesting. So I'm thinking it's going to be something along those lines. And another prompt is to read a YA mental health book. And for that, I'm going to be reading All the Things We Never Said. And that is by Yasmin Rahman. In this story, there's 3 teenage girls who come from very, very different backgrounds and very different kind of situations and reasons as to why they are feeling suicidal. And these 3 girls are connected together by a website, and they then make a suicide pact together, and we kind of see them go on this journey of realising the kind of impact that their suicide will have. And so we follow these 3 girls kind of meeting up discussing everything that's going on in their lives, finding out new things about each other, and basically following them on this journey to the date of death. And then obviously no idea what happens after that because I've not read the book yet. But it's got very, very good reviews. I've heard that the mental health rep in it is excellent, so I'm really looking forward to that one. And as green is the colour that mental health awareness campaigns use, we have a prompt that we need to read a book with green on the cover. So for this one, I have gone for The Prison Doctor by Dr. Amanda Brown. Obviously this isn't full mental health rep throughout the whole book, but basically we get to learn about different cases and different patients that Dr. Brown has dealt with whilst working as a prison doctor, and inevitably there's cases where there's self-harm, attempted suicide, depression, anxiety, and I would imagine there's other mental health problems in there as well that we come across, because you know our prisons are full of people with mental health difficulties. And the last prompt for the mental health readathon is to read one of the host picks. And for this one, I was hoping to read The Stranger on the Bridge by Johnny Benjamin. This is a kind of memoir of this man Johnny and how he was actually on a bridge at one point in his life with all intentions of jumping and ending his life, but a stranger happened to come across him and talked him down and basically saved his life. Since then, Johnny has gone on to kind of get himself to a place where he's got a healthier mental state and he's more stable, and he is able to look back on things and talk about his journey of how he ended up on that bridge and his experiences of being diagnosed and from having schizoaffective disorder. And he's also, since he's become well enough, he's gone on to do a lot of campaigning and educational talks about the, you know, male suicide awareness and male depression, because there is a tendency for men to not seek help as much as women would do, and to not want to admit that they're struggling with things. So he ended up being awarded an MBE in 2017 for his work that he's done. So that sounds like it's an incredible kind of memoir from, you know, rock bottom to where he is now. And then I've got another 6 advanced readers copies that I want to try and fit in this month. And the first one of these extra ones is A Bit of a Stretch by Chris Atkin. And I appear to be stuck in a prison loop this month. It's just bizarre how sometimes my books all seem to follow a theme, and this month it's prisons. So basically, Chris Atkins was a British filmmaker, quite middle class, very well educated, and he was convicted of committing or of helping somebody to evade tax, and so that's a white collar crime. And I think what's interesting about this book is that it's going to show us kind of a prison from a different aspect, because personally I feel that whenever we hear about prisons or prisoners' experiences, it's more of the you know, the kind of official lines or stories that were told from, you know, the governors, the management, people like that. And I think when we do hear from actual prisoners, it tends to be put forward in a way that these people just can't be trusted and that they are unreliable in what they say. So I feel that somebody like Chris, he would probably be listened to a little bit more, and that people would believe what he says. So if he says that our prison system is crap, then I think people will be more likely to be like, oh yeah, well maybe he is telling the truth then, just because of the type of background he's got. So I'm looking forward to that one. And then the next one is literally just called Q. the letter Q. Q by Christine Dolcher, not sure. She's the author who wrote Vox, which I've been planning on reading since it first ever came out and never got round to it. But basically, Q is a dystopian book, and it takes place in an America where intelligence is everything and your value to the country is everything. So basically, people are ranked on the Q number, and they are tested every month, and if the test results drop down even just a tiny bit, the Q number is dropped, and depending on your Q number, that puts you into a tier system, and each tier is treated differently and receives different things. So basically, everybody's trying to stay in the top tier and basically live a good life. But the story is about this lady who, her and her family are in the top tier, and her husband is one of the kind of policy makers and quite high up in the American government. And their youngest daughter is really, really struggling. She ends up failing her latest tests, and her Q drops down to a level where she has to be shipped away. Like, she's literally taken from the family and taken to this so-called state school, where she only gets to see her parents for 5 hours a time, 4 times a year. She can have no contact with them. She's got no kind of job prospects or any kind of way of improving her life. Like, this is her. She will do low level things and have a bit of a crappy life. So we follow the mum who purposefully decides to fail her tests the next day so that she can get taken away with her daughter. So that sounds a little scary, and I think there's some kind of underlying tones of the Nazi era, so we learn a little bit about that. And bizarrely, sticking with this weird theme of getting good grades or failing and being shipped away to some kind of work camp / state school, I've got a middle grade advanced copy of a book called Escape from Bad Grades Slave Labour Camp by Nathan Smith Jones. This is a book about a young boy who he ends up with bad grades at school, and he's sent away to a labour camp where he has to work his backside off, and he's not treated very well. And basically he's living in this nightmare situation, and it's about him trying to escape from there. And does he get with the girl that he likes? Does he manage to escape? And that's as much as I know about that one, but I'm hoping that's quite an easy fun read this month. And I've got a YA book called The Vanishing Place by Teresa Emenizer, possibly. And this has got very Lord of the Flies type vibes with it. Basically, a group of teenagers head out on a boat trip, and the weather turns bad. They're caught in this really bad storm and end up washed ashore on a random desert island somewhere. And then they've got to try and survive on that island until help comes. And it's from what I've heard, the entire book is written in prose, so that's something very new for me. I don't know how that's going to go down, but I'll give it a try. And then I've got a book that I'm so excited to read. I've had this author, John Mars, recommended to me so many times, and I actually own 2 of his books, and I've just never got around to reading them, even though they sound brilliant. So I'm really excited to get to read this one. It's called What Lies Between Us, and it follows a mother and daughter. There's hints of some kind of mistreatment or abuse, and then years later we're following them, and it says that every night, once they've had the dinner together, the daughter goes and takes the mother back up to the attic and chains her up with heavy metal chains, because the mother has done things to the daughter that can never be forgiven. And it just sounds really, really creepy, and it definitely sounds like something I would enjoy. And the last book that I'm going to fit in this month, hopefully, is called Zombies of the World by Ross Payton. Now, I wasn't sure if this was going to be a graphic novel, but it turns out it's written more like a kind of reference book, as if it really is non-fiction. And it kind of shows diagrams and explanations about different types of zombies. And it just looks like a really, really fun book, and I can't go a month without fitting zombies in somewhere, so this is my fix. And I'm really, really excited to get reading that one. I think that one's going to be very welcome after some of the heavy subjects that I'm going to be reading this month. And that is all the books I'm going to read. Actually, that is a lie, because I say that every time and I always fit in more somewhere. But those are all the ones that I'm planning on reading. I'll see what happens as the month goes on. And if you made it this far, thank you very much, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.